Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. Today's theme is NFL players, and you get 3 hints. How's that?
Right now or later?
Well, when I ask the question, I'll give you 3 hints as I ask the question. So a lot of stuff to go over. Aaron Rodgers, is he going to be out for good? I want to get your take on maybe potentially changing the rules for the touchback if the fumble goes over the pylon. That's happened more than once. $50 million has been invested in pickleball. That's probably the fastest growing sport around. Baron Davis, remember him from the Golden State Warriors?
Yep.
Is involved in a fan-owned pro team where the fans can participate in the team, making decisions and getting rewarded. This will be, what could go wrong with this one, right?
Yeah.
Potential of building an NFL team in Europe. Man, can you imagine the travel on that? Let's see here. There's going to be a big merger, a $21 billion merger between the UFC and the WWE. I'm sure you know about that.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Recent college football games have garnered incredibly large audiences. Good old Deion Sanders coaching Colorado. That's been like the Cinderella team. And Alabama's out of the top 10 for the first time in a long time. Is the tide turning? Ba-dum-bum-ch. Okay. And if we have time, I got a lot of fun Bob Uecker quotes. So that'll be fun. And I'm sure, Russell, you've got a lot of things you want to talk about too. So this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments yielding over 7% secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than them at pacificprivatemoney.com. Check them out. So far to date, no client has ever lost money. That's a good thing. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman. All right, Russell, I'm going to let you start off. What do you want to talk about first? We got a lot of different topics to go over.
Well, I will talk about the San Francisco 49ers because they're the team that's closest to my heart. And, they're 2-0 and they haven't had a home game yet. But yesterday in Los Angeles, it sure sounded like they had a home game. It's amazing that, the rivalry between them and LA, I don't know if you can call it a rivalry in the sense that the Niners have won against LA 11 times in a row in the regular season.
Wow. And that includes the fact that the Rams went to the Super Bowl within those 11 years.
Well, that was that one.
Nice. One loss.
Jaquiski dropped the one wide open interception that would have gotten them the win. And probably a Super Bowl, would have definitely put them in the Super Bowl, and I think we would have won the Super Bowl.
No, but I'm saying that the 49ers beat the Rams, even though the Rams went to the Super Bowl. They won one, and they got in with Goff and lost. So that's still pretty good to be able to beat a Super Bowl appearing team.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, but and the Rams made a good, shot of it to start with in the first half. It was really the Niners not playing the kind of defense that they had really associated with. And also it is true that Bosa is a step slower.
Yeah.
The layoff that he had.
And give him a few games.
Yeah, give him a few. Obviously, he'll get a few games, but I do think that him holding out has kept him from having that edge that he would normally have to get in there and get some sacks done. I think that there's no doubt about it in my mind that the Arizona Cardinals are the worst team in professional football right now.
Wow, to give up that kind of a lead
to the Giants. I mean, you can give it up to a great team, but to the Giants, to have a 20-0 lead and to lose to the New York Giants, I think puts them in the front runner for the number 1 draft pick in at the end of the year.
Where's Kyler Murray?
He's hurt. He's hurt. You know, even when he wasn't hurt, he has not really lived up to the potential that he's had. You know, everyone thought that he would be, you know, the next phenom, and sort of
Yeah.
like, you know, the poor man's version of Russell Wilson, but he's really
Yeah. Mm.
not panned out at all, and proving again that when you put all your eggs in a running quarterback basket, it
Mhm.
can often come back to bite you. Whereas when you have a guy like Purdy, who is just super accurate, fast release, and really sees the field well,
Yeah.
and can scramble, but doesn't think of scrambling as his first option. That's the kind of quarterback I think that every team wants to
Well, yeah,
have.
you can keep him a lot healthier, but you know, it was really strange because he had 3 balls that were overthrown. It was unpurdy like.
It was, but in the end, he rectified things and
Yeah.
did what needed to be done to win. And you know what? That is the kind of performance that the old time Joe Montana 49ers used to do. You know, everyone thinks back
Yeah.
on Joe Montana and thinks that they beat everybody, you know, 53-7. And you know, there were a lot of games where Joe Montana did just enough to
Yeah.
win the game. And that was why he was great, not because he blew everybody out, but he knew just what to do to, you know, if you have one of those quarterbacks that has a good game and then a bad game and a good game and a bad game, that's not going to do you very good. You're going to wind up being, you know, 9, 8, 9,
Yeah. Hmm.
or 9-8. But
Yeah,
if
because
you've got,
Montana was not a running quarterback. You know, Steve Young a little bit more, or a lot more, but
obviously,
yeah. So Purdy, yeah, he is kind of Joe Montana-esque, if you want to say that. Russell, looks like we lost you. I know you'll be coming back in again. Holy smokes, he's back. You lost your connection there, my friend. Um, so while you're getting on, I want to ask about Aaron Rodgers. Holy smokes, he signs for the Jets, plays what, 4 downs, and then he's out?
yeah, and I think he's going to be done, because I think that trying to rehab when you're in your 40s is
Yeah.
not, you know, the NFL has such a difficult edge to it that, you know, if you got even some vulnerability, especially quarterback, the NFL is going to find it and exploit it, and, you know, target it, and there's no mercy. There's absolutely
Yeah.
no mercy and no sympathy in the
How much of
NFL.
his contract was guaranteed?
Oh, like $70 million. It's like a lot of money that
Uh,
the Jets
can
are
you,
on the hook for.
can you
But it's not the
imagine being?
Niners.
Yeah, I mean, can you
There was
imagine?
talk. There was talk
Yeah.
about trying to get Aaron Rodgers for the
Well,
49ers.
he wanted to be when he first came into the league because he came from Cal. He wanted to be a Niners, and he was very upset that he didn't get drafted by them, and so he kind of had it in for the Niners. But I mean, can you imagine being the owners? And I mean, 70 million, even if you're a billionaire, is still, that's a lot of money. I mean, what do you do? Is it just flush down the toilet?
It is. I mean, it really, that's what the concept is of the guaranteed, you know, salary, and the upfront nature of the NFL, that the players won't play, you know, especially the big ones will not play unless you guarantee that salary
Now,
for.
I wonder though if they have like a Lloyd's of London insurance contract, because I
I
remember.
doubt Lloyd's. I doubt Lloyd's would insure a contract like that, because they know what the percentage chance is of, you know, having a guy
Yeah,
get hurt.
you know what? The way back in the, gosh, I'm going to say it was in the 90s. Brian Bosworth came from Oklahoma, and he went to Seattle, right? Yeah, and he was, you know, I mean, he was gonna be the star defense linebacker, and he was smart enough to buy a disability policy for himself. And sure enough, he hurt both shoulders, and he was out of football after what, 5 years
Right,
or.
that's a different story. That's a player getting insurance for himself. It's not something that you can do as a team to get insurance for another player, I don't
You know,
believe.
I don't know. I mean, what's the difference? Because if a guy gets hurt, a guy gets hurt.
Because first of all, I don't think those policies are available anymore anyway. I mean, you said it was something
That's
that happened in
possible.
the 90s, and
Yeah.
that, you know, that was a contract that was maybe worth, you know, $5 or $6 million a year.
Gotcha. Yeah,
This
that's
is
true.
$75 million a year. So,
Well, maybe they buy, policy for half of it, and then there's a deductible of like 20 million or something.
heck, you can't even insure a house in California now, thanks to the
Yeah.
way insurance works. I mean, I wake up every day wondering if my car insurance is going to get canceled just because State Farm wants to leave California, and every friggin' insurance company wants to bail on California these days.
Yeah. I mean, I've had State Farm since 1985 on
Hold on to
everything.
it, because I
Yeah. Oh,
don't
yeah.
want, the with the way that the insurance business is going in California, you may, that may be the only way that you can have insurance is if you grandfathered into it.
Well, and that's the thing is, at some point they might get rid of it. But I know I've heard of some insurance companies having drones that are going over people's houses, and then they go, "Hey, you know what? Look at that house. That looks like it needs a new roof." And so they say, if you don't fix that roof by a certain date, we're going to cancel your policy. All right. It's a true story. Okay, here we go. Here's our first trivia question. We're talking the NFL. Was it NFL players? You get 3 hints. All right. I was the first quarterback to start more than 200 consecutive games. I was drafted by the Falcons in 1991. I was the first player to win 3 NFL MVP awards. Who am I? That is our trivia question. Email Edward at sportsecon101. The answer, we'll see if you come up with it by the time we come back from break. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman. Our first trivia question. I was the first quarterback to start more than 200 consecutive games. I was drafted by the Falcons in 1991. I was the first player to win 3 NFL MVP awards. Who am I?
3 MVP awards. That's the one that I should know.
Well, the tough part of this is it's not a trick question, but it sounds like one. Being drafted by the Falcons.
By the Falcons, 1990.
But I don't believe he ever actually played for the Falcons.
Yeah, because I don't remember the Falcons ever having a 3-time MVP quarterback.
Who was a great quarterback in the 90s.
I will say
5.
Rich Kelly. I don't know. I can't
think. Brett Favre.
Oh, Brett Favre was drafted by
the Falcons. Yeah.
Falcons. And then, that I didn't know.
Started playing for the Green Bay. Yeah.
I didn't remember that he was drafted by the Falcons. So that did
kind of a tough one. Okay, let me ask you about the rules about a touchback when a guy fumbles over the pylon. I mean, it seems like that's an extra big penalty, just because if he fumbled just before the pylon, it would be on the 1 yard line, let's say.
Right.
I mean, why don't they just make that the rule?
Because you don't have possession of the ball anymore. It's hard to say that you shouldn't allow that you can't make it a touchback, because when you no longer have possession of the ball anymore and it goes out of bounds, that should be a fumble, and that shouldn't, you don't have possession. So
yeah, but you don't have possession either after it goes out of the 1 yard line either.
Well, yeah, but then it's not in the end zone. So
true, but because a defensive guy, if it goes in the end zone, a defensive guy, if he actually gets it, it's a touchdown. I'm sorry, it's a touchdown to its offense. It's I guess it would be a touchback.
Right.
Yeah, it would be a touchback.
Right, it would be. And
yeah,
so that's,
but a defensive guy never lands on it though.
No, but it's when there's no possession of it, then you don't have the right to get a touchdown.
No. You shouldn't get a touchdown, but you should at least get it back. You still retain possession.
Where would you place the ball at?
At the 1 yard line.
But it's not at the 1 yard line. It's actually at the pylon.
Okay, but a touchback, it automatically goes to the 20 rather than starting at the end zone. So you could do that. I wouldn't even mind that if they said, you know what? Okay, you're at the 2 yard line, you're going in and you fumble it over the pylon. Okay, you get the ball, but it starts at the 20 and going back in. So now you only have 20. So you have 20 yards to go. So you're still being penalized. But this whole idea of totally losing the ball because of it, it really, I don't know who came up with that rule, but it seems kind of, to me, it seems kind of ridiculous.
Well, the thing is that mainly you have to hold on to that ball, and all you have to do is break the plane. So it's not a
Yeah.
lot that you have to do to get to get a touchdown. It probably only happens in the NFL maybe 4 or 5 times for a whole season
Oh,
with the
no, I didn't
entire.
think I didn't think it happens that often.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
for the entire league, for all
Yeah.
17 games, it probably happens about 4 or 5 times for
Again,
all
I'd be
games. So
surprised if it happens more than two.
we already had one this weekend, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's enough of a problem that it needs to be changed. I think that again, players have to just be very aware that when you're holding on to that ball, you got to break that plane, and you got to make
Oh,
sure that
true.
you
Well,
stay in
it's like
bounds.
when these guys, like go, they think they have a touchdown, they go high stepping like a Leon Lett, or well, no, that one the ball got knocked out of
Yeah,
his
from
hand.
behind.
Yeah, but these guys who they spike the ball early, or they just
You gotta
they
have that
drop the ball.
focus. You gotta have that focus,
Oh
and
yeah, for sure.
all the other players are managing to get the ball into the end zone and keep possession. So,
That's true.
that's the way I look at it, is that, it's just you gotta pay closer attention and really make sure that you're holding on to the ball at all times, and that is
Yeah.
kind of the name of the game.
It's like stupidity expense. Okay, moving on here. A potential of building an NFL team in Europe. So, they've been playing games in Europe periodically. It's a great idea because from the standpoint of it gains, fan acceptance.
Football's already popular in Europe, so I don't think that necessarily is a must. That you have to.
Well, but I mean, they play rugby, but they don't really play football. I mean, there's Canadian football.
Well, they had the World League of American Football, if you remember the We Laugh,
Yeah, but
the
yeah. Okay,
Birmingham
well, let's
Fire,
talk
and the
about this.
Barcelona Dragons.
Okay, so the potential of building an NFL, like a real regular NFL team in Europe. I mean, that would be a little crazy because the traveling.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's a real problem. In fact, I do think the England and Germany, and now the idea of China and Mexico, they're I think that they should instead try to do again like the World League. I thought the World League wasn't a bad thing. I thought
how do they explain to the audience how they did that?
the World League of American Football was basically an expansion, league of NFL teams that were based in Europe, and they had their own league, and they had their own, Super Bowl, and all of that stuff. And there were teams like the Barcelona Dragons and the Birmingham Fire, and I'm trying to remember a couple of the other.
Okay, but they
teams.
stayed. But they stayed over.
Yeah, they stayed in
across the
Europe, and it was a
pond.
place for players to go when they couldn't quite get the job done in the NFL. Because if you look at the other leagues that have tried to challenge the NFL, they've been absolute and abject failures. I
Yeah,
mean, just as bad a failure as
the
the
USFL.
latest, well, the latest Flash comic book movie that came
Oh.
out. It just didn't get over. And if again, football, when you say, well, they tried it, in the 90s with the World League, but football has had 30 years to get more popular in Europe. So I think that
That's true.
because the USFL and the XFL have absolutely
Oh yeah.
failed. So there's really no alternative or place for players to go to hone their
Well,
craft.
there is the Canadian Football League.
But the rules are so different. So it's there, you're
Yeah.
not really, and the
Okay.
success level of players coming from the Canadian Football League to the NFL is like less than a fraction of a
No,
percent.
it usually goes the other way.
Yeah, you're kicked out of the NFL and you wind up in the
Yeah,
CFL.
exactly. And by the way, was that Flash movie? Was it a flash in the pan?
It was a flash fire sale. It was it's a flash flood basically I mean, you probably don't even know about it, which is why it was such a huge
No,
disaster.
I mean, I know that like the TV series, the Flash, but
Yeah, they tried to kind of end the series by making a movie about it. They like to continue what was going on in the series by taking it to a movie level, and it just, I think, and I'm the first person to love comic book movies, and I was, when I was a kid, I always dreamed that comic book movies would be where they are today, and yet now I've got to say to myself that there's rarely a comic book movie that I see now that I enjoy, other than like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That actually is a very entertaining movie.
Really? Okay. Well, hey, so like, listen, I love Toy Story, so and in fact, going back to football for a minute, I don't know if you remember, because you may have been a little bit too young, but in the '70s, there was the World Football League. They actually came out. Did you remember that?
Yeah, not really, because I think I was a little bit young for it, but they've tried it, and it just, the NFL continues to handicap it because it doesn't want it to be more popular than the NFL. So that is the one problem when you have the NFL create its own league. But when you see these rival leagues like the XFL and I can tell you this, the merger with the UFC parent company, Endeavor or something like that, they aren't going to waste money like that again on an XFL. That was a passion project of Vince McMahon, and for a guy that doesn't want to pay for any health care for his workers, he's ready to spend money on things like the World Bodybuilding Federation and the XFL. And it's funny that Vince finds money when he needs it for things like defending himself against sexual harassment suits, when his workers need health care, when they need to be treated as something other than literally chattel, and the way that farmers treat ground their cows for ground beef. That's basically how the WWE operates, and I do hope that this new ownership will take the health of the wrestlers seriously and offer them employee type benefits, instead of saying you're an employee when we want to control you, but when you ask for anything from us, you're an independent contract.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, let's get to our second question here. Okay. So this question, again, we're talking the NFL players. You get 3 hints. This one, you should get this one. Okay. I was the Saints quarterback for most of the 1970s. I never played in a playoff game. The speed limit signs on Ole Miss campus were changed to bear my number. Who am I? That's interesting. I didn't know that they changed the campus speed limit signs. So it can't be over 45, right? Okay. Well, actually, if he was a quarterback, he wouldn't have that number anyway. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Russell Jackman. Second trivia question. I was the Saints quarterback for most of the 1970s. I never played in a playoff game. The speed limit signs on Ole Miss campus were changed to bear my number. Who am I?
I'm just going to throw it out there and say Archie Manning.
Yes. What was his number?
Oh, that is one thing I'm not good at, and that's uniform numbers.
I think it was number 8, if I'm not mistaken.
You know what? I'll take your word for it. Okay. Also, have you heard about not that it's a football story, but have you heard that they're going to install speed cameras all across California now? And if you go 11 miles per hour over the speed limit, you're going to get an automatic ticket.
I had not heard that. I was wondering when that was going to come. When is that? Do you have to vote on that, or when's that going to?
No, it's done. It's already been voted on, and it's already in process. And by 2024.
Wow.
Yes, a year from now.
Wow. Hopefully
watch your speed.
So that's 11 miles over any speed limit.
And I was just driving around the other day, and I was noticing how often I drive 11 miles per hour over the speed limit, which is a lot.
You know what? Now that you admitted it, you have to turn yourself in.
Yes. Well, no, it's because it's not a lie yet.
That's right. Okay. So where are they
and
gonna put
why
these?
do I have to turn myself in when we'll have cameras pointed at you all the time? I mean,
Yeah.
talk about your big brother type,
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
it
So wait a
is.
minute,
It's
or where are they going to put these cameras? Like everywhere?
apparently everywhere, apparently on
Wow.
all the freeways, all the highways that we've
So,
got, and in a
well,
lot of residential areas.
residential. Yeah. Gotcha. Wow. Okay. Well,
Although I
thanks
will
for.
say this, they do say the highest fine that you can get is if you are going 99 miles per hour over the speed limit. So in other words, if you're doing 175 miles per hour, in one of the on a highway, then
Yeah.
you'll get the highest fine. It's like, boy, I'd like to see someone doing 175 somewhere. Where can you find even enough space to get
Yeah. Well, that's true.
175?
Yeah, like at 2 a.m. on Highway 5, maybe
But if
going
you've ever
down.
driven across the country, boy, there's some spots where you could do 175 and no one would notice.
Oh yeah, going to the Midwest where it's straight.
Wyoming, yeah, Montana,
Yeah.
Iowa, Nebraska.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, but if they put that on the five, they put those cameras on the five, what a nightmare it'll be to
Yeah.
drive up and down to LA and stuff if you can only.
Have they said what the fines are? Like how much?
Yeah, it's like for just going a few miles per hour, like the 11 is like
Yeah.
$50, but then it gets much higher than that when you go, 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. It's like,
And I'm sure they're going to
$200.
say it's for safety.
It is.
Yeah,
That's
of
what they're
course
saying.
it is.
That's what
No,
they're
you know what it
saying.
is? It's to pay for the cameras.
It
They're
really is. It's going to
they're
be a
inventing
huge
money to
cash
pay
cow.
for the inventing money. It's like a circular
and
thing.
and how many people are probably going to get flagged incorrectly? I mean, you look at
Oh
how
yeah.
many like red light cameras screw up, and I've been nailed for one, and it wasn't my fault at all. But you can't
Gotcha.
argue it, and
Yeah.
the $450 fine in the mail really
Oh,
hits you.
that
The only thing
hurts.
that is okay is that it's not a moving violation. It doesn't wind up hitting your it doesn't give you a point on your license
Wait, what doesn't?
that when you violate one of these speed cameras.
Oh, interesting. I
It
mean,
is
because
it
that,
is
I mean
interesting how
that's kind of a benefit from that end of it. But yeah, it's like what happens if you're going slow, you're going 9 miles over, and a guy whips by you going 15 miles an hour more, and it snags you
triggers the
instead of him.
camera. There's going to be
Yeah.
probably a lot of wild stuff like that too.
Hopefully, you know what? Hopefully they'll clog the courts so much with all this stuff that they'll finally get rid of it. They ended up
Or we
getting rid
get
of some of those
self-driving
cameras
cars, and you just set it and
for 9 miles.
and forget it and just not even pay attention to it.
Yeah. And
That's what
God,
I'm hoping.
sometimes you really feel like you have to drive 25 miles over just to get where you're going. Hey, I was
Yeah.
going back to our trivia question. So Archie Manning was the correct answer. Now here's the the other trivia question part of this. Part two. Who was the other quarterback that came out at the same year, and there was this big competition between them? And I'll give you a hint. He played for the Houston Oilers. He started off playing for the Oilers, then he actually ended up playing for the Raiders. And I don't remember after that.
Stabler?
Dan Pastorini.
Oh, Pastorini. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of fun. All right. Moving on here, we have recent college football games have garnered large TV audiences, over 8.7 million viewers, specifically the Colorado over Nebraska. Good old Deion Sanders back coaching a decent team, and they're like the darlings of the college football, aren't they?
Well, I will admit this, that, I am really not a fan of the college regular season. I don't pay much attention to it. But that being said, I still watch like 2 or 3 college games a year. And I just chose to watch the Colorado State game on Saturday.
That's got to be a big rivalry, sure.
That was really an amazing game. I don't know if you saw it or not.
But I did not. No.
The back and forthness of it, and the fact that it went to double overtime was talk about teams pulling out all the stops to try to beat the other, and Deion got the win, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Colorado in contention for a national title this year.
I definitely do watch the. I don't know if I watch too many playoff games there, but I definitely watch. The BCS.
There isn't one anymore.
No,
I mean, it's now the tournament. They have there's no bowl championship series anymore. It's now that the tournament, which expands now to I think 6 teams, and eventually they're going to have 8 teams.
Okay, well, let's put it this way: we'll watch the final Super Bowl of it. How's that?
Yeah, the college championship game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which the last few years hasn't been all that impressive, but now that Alabama's not in, maybe it will be.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Alabama, the tide has been turning. Apparently, they're out of the top 10 for the first time in a long time. It used to be, that college, the better college teams would recruit the better college players because the better college players would want to play for a championship type team. So it was like sort of like the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The better teams get better and the worse teams get worse. But like, what's going on with Alabama? What happened to them?
Eventually stuff comes back to you. And to be honest with you, I don't miss Alabama. I mean, they've had their time.
No, I don't either.
Especially with these new rules where players now can get paid, it's more tempting to go to a school that you can get famous at, like a UCLA.
Good point.
Or New York or Chicago or Boston versus Alabama, which is not a media friendly state. It's not, tell me what else in Alabama other than the football team gets any mention. So I think kids are now thinking more along the lines of like, hey, where can I go to make the most money rather than where can I go necessarily to be a winner. And I don't know if that's something that's good or bad for the life of college football, but it's more realistic. And so you're not going to have these mega dynasties in college anymore where you have Alabama going every year, because I think there's going to be a lot of volatility because teams now know that it's not just your reputation that can get players, but the promise that they can earn money by going to your college, and the fact that you're a media friendly school in a media friendly town in a media friendly state that will wind up making you the most money. And that's what these players care about more than necessarily being part of a winning.
I don't discount that with the players, because they don't. It's not like a long career that most players have.
No, and in college you can get hurt just as easily as you can in the pros. And
absolutely,
if you that might be the only money that you ever earn. In college. So that's something to keep in mind. But I don't miss Alabama. They've had their time in the sun, and it's better for college football if it spreads around and you see different champions. I mean, think about the fact that I think New England won back-to-back Super Bowls, but you haven't had a back-to-back winner outside of New England pretty much in the last 30 years since the 49ers did it, and I think Denver did it. You haven't had, it's in the early 90s. You haven't had a back-to-back winner, and you haven't had a back-to-back winner in baseball. In X number of years, in about 20 years. And in basketball, you had a back-to-back winner in Miami and in the Warriors. But other than that, you have to go back to the Lakers to find back-to-back winners. So I think that we're seeing just a trend in sports to, see a turnaround in every year a different champion.
I like that because, then each team kind of, the fans get a little bit more excited too.
It spreads the wealth around. On the other hand, we're not going to see the kind of dynasty stuff. In fact, I was watching Bill Belichick yesterday and just thinking to myself, like how far the mighty have fallen to see New England getting beaten up by Miami. I just said, the Belichick doesn't have that level of super invulnerability because he doesn't have Tom Brady there. And they say, he may be a football genius, but he's not as much of a genius when he doesn't have the raw talent, when he's trying to get stuff done with
Well, he lost Gronk,
yeah,
a few years
and
ago. Yeah.
the guy that he drafted, trying to remember his name, Jones.
Yeah.
He's just not he's not at that same talent level that Brady is, and maybe they may never find someone like that. And sometimes, that's the thing, is that you have your moment in the sun, like the Bulls had Michael Jordan, and since Michael Jordan, they haven't done a thing since the 90s. They've been,
Yeah.
a non-factor ever since then. So, that can be one of the elements too. You find the gem, but you never find that diamond in the rough again. We'll see if Webb Mignogna provides that same sort of thing, Duncan type success for San Antonio this year.
That's right. Yeah, the new
he's going to be
phenom.
he's going to. And hey, basketball season starts up very, very soon.
Yeah. What
So
was
get
it,
ready
end
for
of
that.
October?
Yeah, and I think the preseason starts just in like another couple of weeks. So it's this is my favorite time of the year, when you have all these sports converging, baseball, football, and basketball all hit at the same time. So that's kind of exciting too.
You gotta love that. Tell you what, we're gonna go to our third trivia question here. You ready?
Yep.
All right. My nickname, we're talking NFL players, and we're gonna give you 3 hints. My nickname is a classic video game character. I scored 4 touchdowns in 2006. I was suspended by the NFL for the 2007 season. Who am I? That's our trivia question. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Our third trivia question. My nickname is a classic video game character. I scored 4 touchdowns in 2006. I was suspended by the NFL for the 2007 season. Who am I?
Geez, the only one that I can think of is Pac-Man Jones.
Yes, Adam Pac-Man Jones. And I'm trying to remember why he was suspended in 2007. Was it a gun-related type thing? Or
I thought it was steroids, but I can't be sure about that. The only other guy I was thinking of is Atari Bigby. Do you remember him?
The name sounds familiar. But
and then I thought of Mario Ellie, Super Mario Ellie, for the Warriors, but he's a basketball player. So
but actually, see, remember, it says my nickname is a classic, so it would not have been his real name.
It's Super. His nickname was Super Mario.
Yeah. But no, you got it right. Adam Pac-Man Jones. All right, you ready for our thoughts for the day? Always, right? Okay.
Now you just put that in you just say that now because I'm not.
Exactly. I know you're going to say it. Okay. So I accidentally took out my Blockbuster card when I got carded at the bar. The bouncer said, never mind.
Be kind and rewind.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that. Oh my gosh. You're aging us, my friend. Yes. You know what? I can't even imagine saying that and going, you're aging us by saying, be kind, rewind. And it's like, come on, I can remember, where's the beef and even stuff, it's the real thing. When you talk about Coke, then you're starting to age yourself.
Do you know there is one Blockbuster still left, by the way?
Yes, in Oregon, I think, or Washington.
Yeah, outside of Portland. And
that's kind of fun.
Still has a cult following.
Exactly. Okay, and
you can still use your Blockbuster card if you have one.
If you have one, that's pretty cool. I wonder how much they charge them. Okay, and most people are shocked when they find out how bad I am as an electrician. All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective. And
not next week.
It'll be fine. Asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios. Kind of.